how do you balance confidence and humility as you grow your career and lead others?
The confidence naturally comes with the skill set that you're gaining, right? Like I would say 10 years ago, I had no confidence, right? Like fake it till you make it's a popular saying, and there are definitely some people who are just faking it.
You've been in the Dynamics Business Central space for about the last 10 years. What's motivated you to make that leap from consulting to actually founding your own firm?
When I originally started the company, it was just me. Start to get some clients and then kind of have replicated it in terms of got too busy, hired another resource, got too busy, hired another resource. I'm somebody who's just way too impatient to sit around and wait for a 3% raise every year. If I'm going to be working 70 hours a week, I want to get paid for it.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel. And today I'm joined by special guest Ben Cole. Ben, thank you so much for being here, man. I'm excited for this conversation for a couple of reasons, in that we work in the industry together, but we don't necessarily work in the same, I don't know, would you call it the same stack, you know? Like you're a Business Central guy, and I just think that's super interesting and would love to get into the conversation. But before that, and getting to know you, you said something really interesting in that you have to balance the difference between humility and confidence. And I kind of wanted to ask you is, how do you balance those two things? How do you balance confidence and humility as you grow your career and lead others?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. And I know originally we met on LinkedIn, right? So I think you get a mix of both of those things, right? Because everybody wants to be seen, or people will follow posts of, everybody calls it subject matter experts, SMEs, SMEs, whatever you want to call it, right? But I think one of the things where we first met, right, was we also like to have some fun with it and some humor, and I think that's where the humility comes in, or that humble side, right? And at the end of the day, everything is based on people, right? Like you can have these technologies, you can have all these things, but what people are really drawn to during that initial cycle, whether it be learning or sales or whatnot, right, I think is that people connection. And if all you do is portray confidence, right, that's one thing, because you do want to be seen as a subject matter expert, but you kind of also have to have that human side of the equation as well, right? And those are two things that I always try to go back and forth on. But I think the confidence naturally comes with the skill set that you're gaining, right? Like I would say 10 years ago, I had no confidence, right? Like you didn't know anything. And I'm also not somebody that will fake it, right? Like if I don't know something, I'll be the first person to tell you that I don't know. And I think that comes in, again, with the other side, balancing the two. But at the end of the day, I think it's just being a real person, right? Because there's a lot of people who, fake it till you make it's a popular saying and things like that. But there are definitely some people who are just faking it, right? So balancing those two things, I think is really important, and an interesting place to start for the conversation today, for sure.
Yeah. I agree on a couple things that you said. And a lot of times, the confidence is just something that comes after experience, right? Yeah. And just simply putting the time in. And I guess I hadn't thought about that at first, in that it's not like a confidence in even my abilities. It's a confidence in, hey, I've been doing this for X amount of years, or I have built X amount of business rules or X amount of Power Automate flows or whatever. So I'm able to have a confidence in, or been in X amount of meetings or whatever, right? Like I'm able to have confidence in my experience. I think that's really interesting what you say there. And what would you, just real quick on that, like what would you say to the person that's maybe 1 to 2 years into their role or into the industry, where they're like, okay, I clicked on this video to figure out how I could get more confidence, and you're telling me I need experience, but I don't have experience. Like, what would you say, I guess, to that person that's like in that dilemma?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I always focused on early in my career was just going super deep into one focus area, right? So like I know today we're probably going to talk about Business Central, Power Platform, CRM, like everything, right? But when I see someone on their resume that has like 7 or 8 years of experience, and they're like, I'm a CRM, Business Central, Power Automate expert, right? I'm like, there's just no way, right? Because there's so many things that go into each of those, right? Like I've logged, thousands of hours in Business Central over the last 10 years, and there's still things that I don't know, and Microsoft's like always updating things. So although I think I'm pretty proficient in it, to say that I'm that proficient in CRM or Power Platform would just not be the truth, right? But going very deep into Business Central, I think has over the years put me in a good position, right? But even more so, right? If you are 1, 2, 3 years into just a Business Central career or a CRM career, right? If I use Business Central as the example, you could go the finance direction, the accounting direction, you could go the inventory, the warehousing, the manufacturing, the operations direction, right? There's all these different things, and realistically, you can learn a high level at once, but you're not going to learn all of those things at once and become the expert at once. I remember actually very, very early in my career, nobody seemed to want to touch fixed assets in Business Central, right? So I found myself on like 3 or 4 fixed, like just small fixed assets projects where we were either fixing them, reconciling them, setting them up, like whatever, right? And at the time, I probably didn't know anything about anything else other than fixed assets, right? But became the fixed assets guy, right? And then I went on to, I had a passion for integrations and things like that. So I was using E1 Smart Connect at the time. This was in like 2016 probably, right? But there's like one other guy at the company I was working for that was doing Smart Connect, right? So then kind of became the Smart Connect guy, and then was doing jet reports at the time, right? So I probably didn't know anything about manufacturing or how to ship an invoice, a sales order, right? But going really deep gave me the confidence that when I was talking about fixed assets or talking about Smart Connect, let's say, I absolutely 100% knew what I was talking about. And the clients, maybe the CFO of the company who had 20 years experience on me, he was calling because I knew Smart Connect better than he did, right? So I had the confidence that he was calling me to get the help in an area where I'm the expert. But I did not portray myself as the overall Business Central solution architect, expert, again, when you're 22 years old, right? Or 23 or 20, whatever, your first couple of years of your career. But going really, really deep into one focus area, whatever it is, and becoming the guy or the girl, and then going and doing that over and over and over and over again, right? So go to fixed assets, go to accounting, go to general ledger, go to bank, whatever. And the CRM side, it could be leads, opportunities, customers, workflows, right? And the Power Automate side, it could be the flows you're talking about, or building Power Pages, or whatever it might be, right? But building something that's really robust and sustainable, and then kind of adding horsepower to it over time would probably be, that's probably my long-winded answer to probably a short question that you were asking.
No, I think that's awesome. It starts to introduce like kind of this next topic or question I kind of wanted to ask you, and that you've been in the Dynamics Business Central space for about the last 10 years. And I wanted to ask you maybe a little bit of your story, like what's motivated you to make that leap from consulting to actually founding your own firm?
Yeah, so there wasn't really one like definitive point. I think it came to a point where I'd worked for a few companies. I knew what my skill set was. I knew what it was like to work on a large team, knew what it was like to work on a small team, and ultimately kind of just had that entrepreneurial itch, and kind of wanted to go try it on my own, right? So when I originally started the company, it was just me. So I could have probably gone the 1099 route, but instead decided to start an LLC, start a business, start to get some clients, and then kind of have replicated it in terms of got too busy, hired another resource, got too busy, hired another resource. Have been flexible throughout, right? Because originally we started as a consulting firm, and have kind of shifted that to a product-focused business. So now a majority of our revenue is coming from our ISV products that we've created. But I mean, at the short of it, I think for most people, they didn't want to work for anybody else, or they wanted to work for themselves, and they thought they had more upward momentum working for themselves, right? Because again, you're working for a company, you're kind of capped each year at your 3 to 5% raise, your bonus. Maybe you get a big jump if you get a promotion and things like that. And I'm somebody who's just way too impatient to sit around and wait for a 3% raise every year. If I'm going to be working 70 hours a week. I want to get paid for it. And I think that's ultimately what it came down for, right? I was working just a ton, and I love what I do, so I don't mind putting in the hours. But to see the guy sitting next to you working half as much and getting paid the same, it never sat right with me. And that's ultimately what I've built my business around, right? Performance based, the folks who are kicking butt and working a ton and getting the client satisfaction up, and spending the time in the meetings and the billable hours and like whatever it might be, building product. You're going to make more than somebody who doesn't, right? And I have found that everyone is okay with that. Like everyone that you get in or get out what you put in. Everybody makes obviously a different amount, but everybody's happy with it because they're realistic in that. Oh yeah, well that guy stays till 9 p.m. every night and I clock out at 5. Well, yeah, I don't expect to make as much, or vice versa, right? The people who are putting in the extra hours are getting compensated for it. So, and if you don't like that, then this isn't the right place for you, quite frankly, right? And I've found that to be very, very lucrative, and really help make everybody feel like feel their worth, right?
Sure. I think that's something that is really interesting about this industry in general. And not that, everywhere you work will have that same mentality, but I feel like something about, and maybe it's just tech in general, but there's something about the industry where it does feel like you have the ability to like go and hustle and to go and get it, which is something that I really appreciate. I don't know if you're like grew up playing sports or like a big, big sports guy. I know you're into golf, but like I, it is impossible to talk about who I am as in my personality without without talking or thinking about sports. And so that's something that I also kind of, really appreciate about, what I appreciate about sports, but also what I appreciate about the industry. And that like, no, if I want to put the extra time in, hit the extra workouts or do the extra, do this, that you have the ability, yeah, to go and hustle and to get it done. What's like, I want to tie it back to that first topic when we were talking about humility. And now that you're actually, you founded this firm, you're working with, you're hiring additional people, you're leading people. Like how much more important is humility in a role like yours, where it has that trickle down effect throughout the entire company, and you being humble and encouraging others to be humble, so that the everything that the company is doing is kind of has that stamp of humility and brings that human aspect to it. There wasn't really a question in that, but does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like what
no,
I'm
no, I
what
get,
I'm
I get what
saying?
you're saying. I think it's just you naturally kind of morph to the people that you're around, right? So I don't think it necessarily 100% comes from me, but just everyone working together and having the same attitude to achieve the same goals, I think is very important. Just because you do, if you'll think about it now that we're talking about it, right? But like think of the different, like even the different like friend groups you have, or different people you're working with, or different clients you're working with. You do kind of mold towards them, right? Like I have certain clients who they get on the phone, they're super excited to talk. I find that we accomplish more in those calls directly because of the client's attitude towards like the problem we're trying to solve, right? Because they come with a can-do attitude, they want to knock it out, they're team players, and it goes really well. And then maybe the call after, like I'm the constant, right? Like I'm throughout all the calls in the day, I'm the constant. I know who I am, right? And then you get on another call, and maybe they're wasting time just pointing fingers, or not trying to get the job done, not working as a team, and it's like we get half as much done just because people don't have the right attitude on the call, right? So I think again, whether it's internal team, external team, I'm a new dad, so like even with my family, right? Like if you're loud and yelling and stuff, like your kids are gonna be loud and yelling, right? But if you're calm and talk through the process and like here's why we don't do that, right? Like that's that's not good. This is what you should be like, right? It all molds, and even in the neighborhood, right? And like you see see different people treating their kids differently, and like I've got a lot of cousins. My sister doesn't have any kids, but my cousins all do, and it's like going over to their house, you see how they treat their kids, and it really trickles down, like you said. So I think all aspects of life. it's important. And again, it comes back to that human factor that we all may overlook, but I think is the most important part, right? Like anybody can jump on a client call and walk them through how to do the fixed assets or whatever, like we're talking about earlier, right? But working through it together and explaining it and telling them why we do it this way, I think is very important. And attitude's everything, right? And it really helps make a project successful. I'm working with one client right now, and they probably have the best attitude I've ever seen, and we're just knocking stuff out left and right. They're not worried about, the budget and every half hour. It's like, no, like they trust me, I trust them. Like however much time I spend is how much time I'm going to spend, and I'm doing right by them, and we're knocking it out as quickly as possible, right? Whereas like other people will just ask you billion questions on everything. It's like, that's how much time I spent to do it. Like I don't know what you're asking me, right? But you'll get a mixed bag of everything.
Definitely. Well, first I just want to say congrats on being a new dad. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully you're getting enough sleep every night.
No, never.
That is, I am not in that season of. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say no. Last night he woke up at I got up at midnight and like 2:30. I think he's 7 months old now, but he's in a bit of a sleep regression, I would say, right now, where he used to sleep really good, and now he learned how to roll over and stuff like that. So he'll just roll over, kind of crawl to the back of the crib, and then get stuck, and then he just starts crying, and you got to go help him.
Well, that is, I'm not in that season of life, at least at this point, and I'm excited for that time, but not right now. I'm thankful that I'm not in that season right now. But nonetheless, that's awesome. I wanted to ask you, kind of in the same vein of founding ERP Connect, what's been kind of the most surprising or rewarding part in that journey so far for you?
I think the most rewarding part definitely is both building the team and the client base, right? Like anybody can start a company, file an LLC. It takes like 5 minutes, really. It's actually very easy. But actually getting people to, the first dollar I think is the most exciting, right? Like, you'll see people with like their first dollar framed up or whatever in their office. I think that's definitely rewarding when you can find your first couple clients that are actually going to pay you for your services. But then just building it and getting on the ecosystem and becoming kind of like, I wouldn't say we're a household name, but just going to conferences and people know who you are and they know what your company does, I think is probably the most rewarding part. Just, oh, you're like, again, 10 years ago, oh, you're the go-to guy for fixed assets. Okay, like, sure, whatever. Like, that's great. But now if they're like, oh, you're the go-to company for sending invoices out of Business Central or doing prepayments or our CRM tool that we've got in Business Central, like that to me is the most rewarding, where again, we've built something that our clients or other folks are now promoting because of how good it is, right? I think that's like the ultimate pinnacle of feeling like you've kind of like made it or feeling like you've been successful, right? Where now other people are selling your product at no commission to them, right? Just because they think it's good enough to benefit whoever they're talking to, right? So I think that's definitely the most rewarding. And I think the most challenging thing is just, every team grows lean at the beginning just because you don't have the capital or the funds to just hire 1 million people and just get the job done. And I think just waking up every day and knowing that you don't have the perfect mix, right? Like some days you're going to wake up and you're going to have way more client inquiries than you have people that can answer them that day. And other days, there's going to be people that have, nothing to do. Right. So, we're on the former mix where we've got like way more client inquiries, right? Then, so it's just like, okay, work after dinner and stuff like that. But, obviously that's not sustainable either. You got to continue to hire the right resources, build the team. But when we had like 3 people, let's say to start, if one person leaves, well, that's, a third of your staff just got cut, right? And you got all these clients to surface. As you get bigger, it gets a little bit easier in some aspects, but more difficult in others, right? Because there's also a certain inflection point that we haven't hit yet, but you need to start hiring, C-level folks and have an actual leadership team. Whereas right now it's just kind of like, we don't have that, right? It's a pretty flat organization. We've got, like, I do most of our sales. We've got people who implement. We've got people who develop, right? There's a good mix. But yeah, I don't know. You kind of just roll with the punches for a bit, and figure it out as you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, if you are finding this video impactful or insightful, be sure to like and subscribe. But more importantly, if you are wanting to learn more about the Microsoft Power Platform, then you are going to want to check out the completely free self-paced course that has all of the hand-picked content directly from me as the first link down in the description down below. This is going to teach you everything you need to know about the Power Platform to get started and pass your first few Microsoft certifications. I can honestly say that as a Power Platform consultant myself, that I love what I do, and I don't think many people in today's day and age can say that. If you are wanting to learn more, as I mentioned, be sure to check out the first link in the description down below to get in direct contact and connect with me. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This, you kind of made that leap and started this. Was it about 4 years ago? Is that correct?
Yeah, what day is today? The 6th, so almost exactly 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, you remember
Go
if
ahead.
it was the 5th? It was like, I can't remember if it was actually like Cinco de Mayo, right? Or if it was the 6th. I'll have to check my EIN registration.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we're
yeah.
like almost exactly on the 4-year dot today as we're
That's
recording this.
that's so funny. Okay, very very cool. And yeah, so what would you tell somebody who's on the fence about, maybe they have that entrepreneurial itch to go and start something, like what would you tell that person who was you 4.5 years ago, that's kind of thinking about it, they're interested in it, but doesn't really know what to do or where to start?
I think the biggest thing is you just got to jump in first, right? Like, obviously, don't quit your job with no plan, but put a plan together of kind of what is it that you want to do, right? And just pick one or two things, right? Like, if it's Business Central, maybe you're just doing support, or maybe you're helping other partners with their capacity, right? Like, if a partner doesn't have enough capacity, you could work 10 hours a week for them, or find a recruiter, right? Like, there's so many recruiters out there, a lot of really good recruiters who can plug you in on end user projects or partner projects. So obviously planning is everything. Like, how are you going to make your first dollars in business, right? Because you don't want to just quit and have no plan. I think it's easier than most people would think to get started, right? It's obviously increasingly difficult as you want to hire, and there's different things. But if you put your formula together of here's the hourly rates I can get in the industry, here's how much I make now, here's how much I need to pay my bills, here's how much I have in savings, right? I'm very analytical and type A, so when it comes to that kind of stuff, I have my runway. This is how many months I have of savings if I make $0, which, that's never going to be the case. It's, but if you're making $100,000, maybe you'll only make $50,000 the first year. Again, I feel like it's not with contract work. If you can get a couple contracts and you're actually good at what you do, it's easier than you'd think to find some of these contract gigs. But definitely have that plan, and don't try to go too fast, right? Kind of try to figure it out as you go. Start with yourself, or maybe you have a business partner that you want to go into business with, that you guys are both going to do professional service, and you kind of work on clients together, right? And then go for it, right? Because there's never a good time, right? I started, like, mine was basically in the middle of COVID, right? 4 years ago. Everyone was like, you're crazy. Like, why would you leave a high paying job to go potentially make no money? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to make no money, right? Like, get a few contracts lined up. Had some friends who needed some help at the time, doing some consulting work. But my friend Austin always says the hardest part about starting a business is starting a business. And that's like, you just have to jump at some point. Nobody's going to help you. Nobody's there to hold your hand. You got to make the cut. It's going to be a couple months probably of making no money, right? Because you got to get all the admin stuff put in place and things like that, and the billing mechanisms to actually charge your clients. But you just take the leap, right? What's the worst case scenario that happens? The worst case scenario is you go work at the job that you were working at before. If you burn the bridge and they won't hire you, there's hundreds of consulting companies out there that are looking for Business Central consultants, CRM consultants, Power Platform consultants, right? So if you're good, you can get hired anywhere, right? Because everyone's looking for highly qualified, talented people. So, my fallback or worst case scenario was, there's all these other partners. I've only worked at a few of them. So if I need a job, I'll go get a job at one of these partners. They're all looking for BC consultants. So always have a fallback. But I think to get started, it's easier than you think, right? If you're just okay with being a solo, entrepreneur or solopreneur,
Sure.
or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about Business Central. It's intriguing to me because I admittedly feel like I know very little about it. And I guess my first initial impression is like, just real quick, what kind of like, even the size of organizations are you finding yourself typically working with or implementing Business Central for?
It's quite a wide range, right? Like I've done implementations where they literally are pre-revenue, right? Like they just started their business, they have nothing, and I call that side of the fence the skip the QuickBooks phase, right? It's like if you go on QuickBooks and you're growing and growing and growing, eventually you're going to outgrow it, right? And QuickBooks and Business Central are kind of like the same price per user per month, so it's like, okay, let's skip the QuickBooks phase, get you on Business Central, and then you can basically scale forever, right? Like Business Central will take you for the next 30 years to get you wherever you need to go, as much revenue growth as you can possibly do. I've also got some clients on the higher side for me personally that are like 100 or just over $100 million in revenue. I know there's other people out there who of course have clients they're much bigger than that, but from my clientele, that's kind of the low to the high. If you had to look at the bell curve, like where does the median hit? Probably like 10 to 20 for most of the clients that I'm working with, right? And I can't speak for the entire industry. We're working with about, 250-ish, just north of 250 clients today, and that seems to be like right in the middle, like that 10 to 20, maybe 5 to 25 if you want to go that next,
Sure.
Standard deviation out, right? But right in there.
Yeah, so how
Yeah.
much more important at that level of, working with organizations that are at that level? I almost wonder, and you were talking about the quality of your work kind of speaking for itself and, the people that you're working with then recommending you. How much more important is that in that, I don't want to call it level of business, but you know what I mean? Like when you're working with organizations that are kind of in that, at that level, like how much more important do you find like that businesses are just, oh, I got this buddy who runs this business, and this would be perfect for Business Central.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger you get, the harder it is, and the more important it is, right? Like the fake it till you make it doesn't work. The higher you go, right? The lower you are in that realm, the less like leadership there is at the organizations, right? So like, people may have not seen it before, they don't know what to look out for. But if you're working with $100 million organization, they're going to have CFOs and COOs and CEOs that have implemented ERPs, at their last 5 roles, and they're going to know exactly the questions to look out for. So having that level of confidence, the ability to talk to those senior level folks, as well as obviously having the technical skills to back it up is so important. I know you were talking about golf earlier, but kind of the analogy there, right, is you can fake it till you make it until somebody asks you to do it, right? And I was playing golf on Saturday, and there was a par 5 that I was like 270 yards out from, and it's like I could pull my 3-wood out and just try to smash it at the green, and until I strike the ball, like I can say, oh yeah, I can drive this green or like whatever, but it was hole 17, and I was feeling overconfident. I know I can't hit my club that far. I might be able to roll it up if I really smash it. And I just hit it, and it just goes straight out of bounds, right? So it's like as soon as you actually step up to the plate or go to bat or have to answer for your actions, the results are all that matter, right? So if you can't deliver, and I might have gotten lucky, right? Like every once in a while a squirrel finds a nut, right? But that was not the case on Saturday. And kind of going into business, right? Again, like you can talk as much as you want, but you got to have the skill set to back it up. So that becomes increasingly important as you get into larger and larger organizations. And I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way either. I'm not saying that you should do that at smaller organizations. You should never do it. But it becomes increasingly important to deliver on your promise at these larger organizations, because it's going to be more structured. And if you don't, it's going to be very unpleasant for you, right?
Yeah. What sort of advice would you give to a business that's currently considering Business Central today and unsure if it's kind of the right move or the right platform for them?
I mean, be involved, right? Like there are so many projects I see where one or two people are making the decision to go to Business Central, right? And the more you can be involved in that decision-making process to evaluate what the next step is going to be is so important, right? Because if you're on the AP team and I'm on the AR team, like I have no idea if the system is going to meet your needs, right? Especially in a more siloed environment. Like if I'm top level CEO, CFO, like whatever, and somebody comes to me and says, Business Central can handle your accounting, your AR, your AP, your bank, your fixed assets, your general ledger, your inventory, right? It's like, okay, well, NetSuite is saying that, and Sage Intacct is saying that, and QuickBooks is probably even saying that, right? And truthfully, at the end of the day, you could probably get any of those systems to work for you, right? Like all of them can handle accounting, all of them can handle general ledger, like all of them can handle inventory, all that kind of stuff. Some better than others at pieces, right? Like I've seen Sage Intacct, for example, not as strong on the inventory management side, but stronger on the ARR, recurring revenue, subscription billing, things like that. But be involved, right? Like really have a tight grasp around what your requirements actually are and work with consultants or partners or whoever it might be that truly understand your processes and what you're trying to achieve, right? If somebody just came to me and said, Ben, I just need a general ledger. Okay, great. I don't need any requirements. Like we're good. But if behind the scenes, they really have this convoluted structure of how their general ledger needs to look and import factors and templates that they need to fill out. Okay, well, I didn't know any of that. I just said this would work for you because you said you need to book journal entries, right? Okay, well, great. Like we're good to go. So the devil's always in the details, and the more you can build that foundation, the better off you're going to be. I think I was doing another podcast recently, and he brought up the example of, I think it was Abe Lincoln, where he's like, if I had 5 hours to cut down a tree or whatever, I'd spend like 4 sharpening my axe, I think is what the saying was. And that's this, right? Like you don't just want to implement Business Central, right? You want to spend the 4 of those 5 hours really defining your standard operating procedures, getting clean data together, right? And making sure that this system will fit for you. And I see so many projects where UAT or user acceptance testing and training is like a week of a 9-month project, right? And it should be the complete opposite, right? Like it should be, we do a quick build and you're getting in there as early as possible to start actually testing the processes, because you want to find out in March that that's not going to work for you. You don't want to wait until November as you're testing and then you go, we got to redesign this whole thing. And it's like, well, your go live is January 1st. We don't have the time to redesign everything. So I'm more of a fan in those kind of sprints of an agile process, right? Where we're, building your testing, we're building your testing, and kind of giving ongoing iterative feedback. But for me, go live is just a date on a calendar most of the time, right? That's just the beginning. Once we go live, there's so much that we can do after. There's so much we can improve on. The users have no idea what they want really until we actually get in the system. I shouldn't say that. They know what they want. They don't know what they want in the system until they get in the system, because they know what they want in their old system, right? And they know how the old system worked. So you're never going to know until you dive in, right? Again, going from the golf example, like you can spend all your time on the driving range, but if you don't actually get out on the course, you're never going to know like how you can actually navigate that course or like what you can score, right? So don't spend, maybe go to the driving range and then play a couple holes and then go back and practice, your pitching wedge or whatever you weren't hitting well on the course. Go refine that until it's ready and then go get back out on the course, right?
Yeah. What I want to give you the floor on this too. I see your shirt. You got the Business Central Toolbox shirt
Yeah.
on. Like, just kind of give you the floor. What is the Business Central Toolbox? How does this support um, Business Central, implementations and organizations?
Yeah, so the Business Central Toolbox, as it sits right now, is a collection of 36 productivity, automation, and dashboarding tools for Business Central. So we only focus on Business Central. We only work in the cloud version of Business Central. And honestly, most of the tools, if not all of the tools that we've created, were based on gaps in Business Central, right? So things that we've found either in our prior lives working as partners or independent consultants or developers or like whatever your role was, right? And finding these common threads of clients saying, I can't believe that Business Central doesn't do this, right? Or I can't believe it does it that way, right? There has to be an easier way to get that job done. I think our prototype a couple years ago was like 6 apps that we released, right? So it was like a dashboard, because Business Central's reporting is, its dashboarding is like really non-existent, right? Like they want you to use Power BI, right? So we created kind of a boilerplate, like here's your AR, your AP, your bank, your inventory, your sales, stuff that everybody needs. And it was, again, one of those things where back then it was, I can't believe Business Central doesn't have these in the system. And now it's like people that download them and say, I can't believe Microsoft hasn't just, taken and run with what you guys have done, because everybody should have the financial dashboard, right? And then going into productivity and automation tools and things like that, one of our first ones was invoice and statement delivery. Can you send an email from Business Central or a statement? Yeah, sure, you can. It's a lot of button clicks. It's kind of mundane to bulk send and stuff like that. So we've given people the easy button is probably the easiest way to say that, right? So most of the stuff that we're creating, Business Central might have something that's like very rudimentary and basic that they can play around with, but we're really adding the horsepower to those applications, right? Advanced prepayments is another one. We've actually got what I call Toolbox Tuesday today, where we do a training webinars on some of our apps. So that's another one that adds a ton of flexibility. But the easiest way I think about it is if anybody's listening that uses Business Central and they've got a couple things where they're like, I can't believe Business Central does it that way, or there has to be an easier way, send me those bullet points and I'll send you back if we've got a tool for it, right? Like a lot of people get lost in our website because there's so many applications to go through. I say just send me like your 3 biggest pain points, and usually we can solve at least 2 of them, right? There's usually a tool that we've got that can solve at least 2, if not all 3 of the pain points that you're currently experiencing. So again, it's the Business Central easy button, really, at the end of the day.
Sure. And those are, yeah, like you're saying, things that you've picked up on from past experiences or projects where it's like, or, you start to notice a common theme of, customers asking for X. And so it's like, hey, why don't we just build it, and kind of some of that IP that's special to you guys and your team. I think that's super awesome. One last thing I kind of wanted to ask you, and maybe it wraps up everything we've talked about in the conversation. You shared a quote with me that was your dad's. You said, no one has the time to do it right, but everyone has the time to do it over. And that clearly left an impression on you. I mean, what are kind of your final thoughts in terms of that and how you apply that to your work today, and your encouragement to any listeners out there that are like, that I guess have that thought or also resonate with that?
Yeah, I think it's funny because we even still talk about it like when we're talking about like work or like whatever. And I think it's just the fact that there's so many people out there that aren't willing to put in the time, aren't willing to do it right? They just want to clock in 9 to 5, which is totally fine. But in order to kind of do all the things that we're talking about doing today, it takes going that extra mile and putting in the extra effort. And I think off that quote, it's doing it right the first time, right? Like whatever you set out to deliver, okay, go deliver that. And you'd be surprised by doing those simple things that, to answer our earlier questions of what do you need to do to start a business, right? That will set you ahead of 90% of the other people out there, right? Just saying what you're going to do and then delivering what you're going to do the first time. So always have more time to do it again, but never have the time to do it right the first time, or whatever the exact quote was that I wrote down, right? Kind of portrays that, right? Like everybody wants to rush through it the first time and then just kind of deliver a half-assed product or like whatever it is, right? But as soon as somebody questions it or needs you to go back, then you're of course going to go fix it or do it again. And it takes twice as long under that methodology, right? And I did talk about, doing the agile framework, but that's not what it's meant to be. That's meant to do it in smaller bite-sized pieces, right? But still deliver every bite-sized piece at 100% accuracy, right? And then kind of go reiterate what's being done. But yeah, I think just there's a lot of simple things that you can do, like doing it right the first time. Again, for anybody who's just getting started, being the first person to show up and the last person to leave, and really soak everything in like a sponge, right? There's so many of these little anecdotes that you can take to really be successful, because most people out there aren't willing to put in the work. They're not willing to jump back on after dinner. They're not willing to get up early to knock out a client call that's on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast, or like whatever it might be, right? So a whole bunch of nuggets from the call, I'm sure, but that's definitely a good one to end with. Just give it your all and do it right the first time.
Man, that's awesome. I feel like if I tried to add anything to that, I would just take away from it. So thanks for sharing that, man. I'd love to, kick our feet up, sit back a little bit, and take us to the after hours happy hour and get to know you a little bit more, Ben. I mean, it's no secret you're into golf, as we've laced it throughout the entire conversation. You also said you're into music. I'd love to. It's funny. I don't know if everybody has a different story, but I feel like more and more, I feel like golf right now is really growing. Maybe it's just in my friend groups, or the people I listen to or whatever, but I feel like it's really growing. And I also I'm like, I don't know, I'm terrible at it. So I just have like zero interest in I have not been bitten by the bug. I don't know, what's your take on golf, man? Why do you love it so much?
I've played since I was a kid. I played competitively growing up. Stopped playing competitively after my senior year of high school. Right, wasn't just quite frankly good enough to play in college. Right, so my competitive journey naturally ended. And I honestly enjoy playing casually, like with friends now, more than I enjoyed playing competitively. Right, but I think it's one of those things where, again, it is something you can play until you can't walk anymore, right? Like I've got guys at the golf club that are 80 years old that are still, shooting in the 80s, right? I think that's always the goal, like shoot your age or whatever when you get there. But I think during COVID it really became popular, like you're saying, where people got the bug, because I noticed about 4 years ago it becoming increasingly hard to get tee times, because it was one of the few things that you could do that, while everything else was shut down, golf was outdoors, so you could still play golf. All the golf courses were open. And I think it really started to pick up popularity then, which for the growth of the game is absolutely fantastic. And we're seeing that in like people tuning into the Masters or the PGA Championship or like whatever it is. But my only complaint there is that it's been increasingly difficult to get tee times over the years, because now everybody's jumping in. But that's totally okay, because it gives me more people that I can go out there and play with. A couple of my friends that weren't huge golfers are now super into it, so it gives us a good foursome when we want to go out and play. But yeah, no, I've just always loved it. It's something that I did with my grandpa when I was growing up. He lived in California, so I'd fly out there and play with him, because I was living in Chicago at the time. And just one of those things you can do as a family as well. We went out. I mean, again, my son can't swing the golf club yet, but he will eventually. But we just went out to the driving range on Sunday as a family. My sister-in-law and her boyfriend came over, and we all just went up, hit some balls, had a great time. Went to the clubhouse, had some food after, and it's just a nice community around it as well, I would say.
Yeah. Have you seen that new like indoor golf league? I don't even know what it's called,
Yes.
but what is this? Like if anybody hasn't seen it, it's like I don't know how to even explain it. It's
Like a
indoors,
simulator.
and yeah, it's a
Yeah.
simulator, and they like move the course around so you don't walk anywhere. And there's like these pro teams, and they're all sponsored by these big brand names or whatever. Like, what's kind of your thoughts on this?
To be honest, I haven't watched it a whole lot. I've caught bits and pieces of it. Again, I think when I watch golf, it's usually the major tournaments, right? So like the 4 majors that you get a year. Those are the main ones I tune into. Smaller tournaments I might turn on in passing, but I haven't caught the bug there for that golf league. But it is, yeah, it's basically golf simulators. You're playing inside, and I think they did it mainly during like the off season of golf to keep people intrigued, kind of like anything, right? Like now you've got you've got your different sports going on at different times. The summer for me is like the worst time for sports because I'm not a baseball fan. So basketball's done, football you're waiting for, hockey's done, and kind of same with golf, right? Like after the golf season, I think they were just trying to keep something for viewership for people who wanted to watch the pros during that golf off season before you hit springtime and the Masters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But there were some big names, and who knows with the split of live golf and all that kind of stuff. I think
Yeah.
people are just trying to keep PGA's just trying to keep it rolling with all the viewership and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
I will
But
say
I
it-
don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I will say it is really interesting to watch. Like, this because they got all the flashing lights and LEDs and all this. Like, it is
Yeah.
definitely like a
Crazy.
pretty unique like viewer experience compared to like typical golf. Which I always think about like, man, if I want to take a nap, I'm gonna put golf on. But like it's not something that it's not that at all. This like indoor golf, so it's interesting. It maybe even attracts maybe a different crowd or whatever. It's cool. Man, Ben, we are about at time. I just want to thank you for being here and sharing everything you have. I think that, yeah, I think we were talking about like actually having the confidence and actually being able to deliver on. I think it's no secret that you are an expert when it comes to Business Central and everything. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your expertise. If people were listening to this or organizations were listening to this and wanted to get in contact with you in some way, what would be the best way to reach out to you or to ERP Connect?
Yeah, I think I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, right? So I know my name is pretty generic. So if you type in Ben Cole, I might not be the first person that shows up. But if you type in Ben Cole and ERP Connect or Business Central or something like that, I'm bound to come up. And hopefully we have some mutual connections. But yeah, connect with me there. Shoot me a message. And if you want to go kind of the other route, you can always go to erpconnectconsulting.com and fill out a form on our website if you're interested in something specific. And I'll try to pick that up if you say that you came from the podcast as well.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll be sure to have a link to your LinkedIn, the Ben Cole, in the description, and then I'll have a link to ERP Connect as well. So
it's funny enough, there is another Ben Cole who I'm actually working on a project right now that does Business Central. So we go back and forth on who the real Slim Shady is. But,
that's awesome.
We'll figure it out.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you again for being here, and thank you to you for sticking to the end of the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.